right, well, welcome everybody to Rock Steady Sound. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, my guest is Alex Wandres. I got him up here in the attic. Alex is the rhythm guitar player and lead singer for the Milestones, a Virginia-based rock and roll band, and has recently been playing some lead for Frederick's very own Tony Wilkins in Undertone. So welcome, Alex.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for being here. Yeah. So I just want to get a little bit, I just like to start from the very beginning. So can you just tell me a little bit about what drew you to music, some of your earliest inspirations, who your people were?
Yeah. I think I always had a guitar growing up. I took lessons at like a young age. It was just like a thing. I wasn't really into it for a while. And then like I took enough lessons to like get good, but I wasn't really into it. And then by the time I think it was like I learned Jimi Hendrix Little Wing, and I was like,
Oh, wow.
I was like, that's it. I was like, that's all
Okay,
I
that's
need.
impressive.
Yeah, and then like around then I started like making my own songs, and that was just a little more engaging for me. And then yeah, I just kind of kept playing. I would say like I got into music. One thing, I mean, anyone that knows me, I'm a big fan of the Strokes. But I remember like they were literally like the first band for me. My sister just had their first album, and I was like young enough that like I literally thought music was only like MTV pop music. It was like that was the only thing I thought it was.
Buddy.
Hey, Tad.
Are we redoing this?
Starting from the beginning.
No, you're good.
Did it just
We're good?
drift? Did it
I
just?
think it just drifted.
Okay. My bad.
Start from the Strokes, maybe.
That's good.
Yeah, so I literally thought all music was just like MTV pop music, which it wasn't terrible. It just wasn't like my thing really.
Right.
And I remember hearing the Strokes, and that kind of just I was young enough that it just hadn't occurred to me that like other music existed. So that was awesome. And then my parents had the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, Bob Dylan were like big pillars for me growing up. And then just kind of went from there. I've always like I was known for in high school I had like long hair, which I guess I kind of do now
Yeah, I
too.
was gonna
But
say.
I would just like pipe my headphones up through my hair, and so I'd just always be listening to music.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
In
in class
class?
all the time.
Rebel.
Yeah, it was great. That was iPods. That was like the first, right when like iPods came
Your
out.
iPod Classic.
Yeah, the iPod Classic.
Dude, I still rock an iPod Classic.
No, yeah, that's legit. Yeah, just a nostalgic interface.
I mean,
for sure.
it holds the most songs.
Yeah.
I don't need an iPod to do anything else but play music.
Yeah, remember the that stupid iTouch or whatever? It was like a phone. It
Yes.
was like that was
Oh
like
my
when
gosh,
they first
I had one of
crossed over.
those. Yeah.
Well, because it was like free or something. Like everyone remember that? It was like
Yeah.
randomly like you sign up for Verizon or something and you get one for free.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But that was like I remember that was like the first time where it was like it used to just be like iPod was all of your music.
Yeah.
And that was just like such a beautiful device.
I
you
know.
And then they started like creeping into like, well, here's like a phone too. And it's
Right.
like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Here? And now here we are.
Now here we are.
Fucking,
Yeah. Well, I guess I
Snapchat.
should ask you about how like streaming has changed your experience as a musician. I did notice the Milestones have like almost 100,000 streams on one of y'all's songs.
Yeah, we just got picked up like by the algorithm, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, sometimes it works out great. It's like, I mean, with the whole streaming thing, I said this early on where it's like, you realize as a musician that there's just a financial reality that's hitting, like, oh shit, I'm not going to make any money.
I know,
Like,
yeah.
at some point that happens. But on the other end, like, I kind of do like music seemed to me like one of the first things that everyone kind of just enjoyed for free. Like they kind of, and they like expected it for free in some sense. Like once you got Spotify, it was like, this is awesome. And I'm a listener. I listen
I know,
to the, like,
I know.
I benefit on the other side of that
Yeah.
too.
I have the same dilemma.
Right. So I mean, it's not like I always obviously there's a sweet spot, and I think this is one of the things that's like nice about the modern era with the music is that like because people just love playing music and making music, it's like their expectation just like if I could just do this for a job, that'd be great.
Right,
like if
of
I
course,
could,
yeah, that's
you know,
always the dream.
right? And so it's like I mean that's obviously still hard to do, but like and you have to tour a lot, and you have to.
Sell merch.
You have to really do it, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's really hard for a lot of bands. But it's not like the '80s or something where it's like you're in your practice space with your buddies and like you make a sweet power chord riff and like you guys have like a cool little like hook. And then you're
Yeah.
high fiving each other because that you're just gonna call up a PR guy and he's just gonna you're gonna feed him this song
Take it to
demo.
the radio
Yeah, and then you guys
station.
just all fucking rich and.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like I think that expectation is a little ridiculous, and like that was like kind of music overblown a little
Right,
bit. So
yeah.
it's kind of nice. I feel like it's nice getting it back to, if you're in it, if you're doing it now, it's not like you're out there to do get rich or just be super famous or anything like that. You're really just like
Yeah.
music calls to me, and like
That's
I
a
like
good
it.
point, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like pop music has gotten a lot. I mean, this is my opinion, my hot take, but I feel like a
Is there
lot
like a
of
sound effect that goes along with
musicians.
that?
Yeah, exactly. George's hot take.
George's
of the
Gus.
week.
Yeah.
I feel like pop music has gotten a lot better, like personally to me, from when I remember it growing up, like, and a lot more diverse and a lot more interesting and a lot more deep.
For sure. Yeah.
And I do feel like, there's just less emphasis now put on like, well, we make music because we want to make money.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, it's really hard to make money. Like, I think that a lot of people who are doing it are just doing it, like you said, because of the love of it.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like, well, I mean, it is still like such a mass product in some
Yeah.
sense, but I feel like the industry has kind of pivoted to like, there is really interesting music, but it's like a team of like songwriters and engineers.
Right, yeah.
And what they do is, a lot, you notice a lot of these, pop stars are all like one person, so it's like
Right.
that's
I know, it's so true.
the face, the pinnacle, the
Yeah.
story that you can focus on. And then beneath that is just like really high end, production and songwriting and, musicality and all this kind of stuff.
For
I'm not
sure.
saying they don't have anything to do with it, of course,
Yeah.
but like it seems like that's the way to streamline it. That's the way to make it more efficient is like you still need to capture and keep that kind of creative spark in
Right.
the essence, but like you just, kind of put a lot of support around that in a professional kind of
Definitely.
setting.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's cool. I mean, I do feel like, with like, I think at some point they realized that you can't really manufacture talent. And so I think the industry kind of pivoted around like, we have to get them while they're like young, like a Justin Bieber or something, and then kind of somehow keep them fresh, that kind of like, doe-eyed kind of thing.
Right.
And then, kind of just create a career for them out of that.
Yeah.
And, that's like Sabrina Carpenter. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
much about her, but I know that she was like, I think in Disney or something young
Yeah,
too.
I think so.
So it's like that happens a lot. Like, Dua Lipa, I don't know a whole lot about her. Yeah. But I know she was like, there's just such different paths for certain people.
For sure.
It's like
Yeah.
they're like, oh, I was 14 and, I submitted a demo or it was on YouTube and got picked up. And then I spent 8 years, trying to, kind of get propped up by the industry or something.
Yeah.
I think Chappell Roan is like that. She was,
Yeah.
kind of trying for years and,
Yeah.
this girl, Grace Vanderwall, who's like incredible voice.
Oh, yeah. She sounds familiar.
She was like young when she was starting to make music. And, but yeah, I mean, one of those things that she just kind of, from what I can understand, she's kind of like burnt. I mean, she's still around and she's still doing music, but like, it seems from someone that doesn't know her that well or anything like that, it seems like she had like early success and then a lot of expectation. And like, so it's just such a different
Yeah.
path for a lot of, pop music, I guess.
sure.
But, there is obviously the path of just like, getting together with a bunch of friends and, playing music in a garage somewhere, like that's still there. And,
Yeah.
obviously there's a lot of bands that do that. But yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying with like, without this giant expectation of like these very clear-cut channels of music, you are getting just such a spread. And like, as a listener, it's awesome.
It's
I mean,
great,
there's I feel like there's a really unique. We're in a unique time in music where there's just so much good, like mid-level
I
fame
know,
bands.
I agree. It's so cool.
And so it's just like you see these bands that are like they're incredible. It's almost like because like they had to kind of keep that creative spark going and like kind of nurture it themselves. And it's like when you don't have some sort of weird arbitrary end goal of like success,
Totally.
then you just keep going. And so it's
Yeah.
like these bands, there's just such cool bands out there nowadays. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I think that's an awesome development. I think that's a direct development from, this kind of democratization kind of music.
Yeah.
And going back to like the whole streaming thing, it's like there's a way that it works out when it works out really well. I would love. I mean, I was just driving today, and like I was listening to a band on one of my playlists, and I was like, man, I probably like don't like it probably blows their mind that someone else is listening to something like that,
Right.
and like I was thinking like this is kind of like how internet was kind of the original promise of the internet was like complete democratization. Everyone gets a voice. Everything is accessible, and whatever community you want to join, you can find. And so in some sense, I mean, there's bands I listen to that for as much as Spotify sucks in some ways, like their discovery algorithm is incredible.
I know.
Like I get suggested good music all the time.
Yeah, it
and
knows
it's
me.
like not big bands.
Yeah,
And it's like
that's true.
that's the beautiful thing about music too, is like you can. This is always why I think like writing about music is always kind of dumb. Like there's something to be said about like a creative, take on music, but like just like the industry of like reviewing albums or something. It's like there's only so much you can say about music.
Right.
You might as well just go listen to it.
Yeah.
So it's like. But when you listen to music, it's like, and you find a band that, you don't know how big they are. You don't know that this person just released, the album from, their bedroom or something. Like, if it's good
Right.
music
Yeah.
and it connects to you, and it's like that intimate kind of like, it's there with you, It's as good as anything else.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of cool things to be said about music nowadays. And yeah, I guess for us personally, I mean, we just released music, and we released an album, and then we released like a little follow-up 2-song EP that one of the songs got picked up by the algorithm, and it just kept suggesting it on radio, I guess, and people would save it and put it on their playlist or whatever. And I mean, that worked out great. And in
That's
some sense,
awesome.
like that's how it would be nice to
Right.
for us to be able to release music and then it to be kind of distributed to people who would might like it. And if that can happen smoothly and without friction, I think that's great.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, the payment is another thing.
I know. Yeah, it's a whole nother can
Yeah,
of
it's kind of
worms.
insane.
I feel like there is, though. I mean, it's interesting what you said. It made me think a lot about too. Like, I feel like genre is kind of collapsing in on itself, and
Yeah.
you're just seeing nowadays. Again, going back to like even pop music, it's like it's hard to define a lot of modern music in these like neatly categorized little pockets because you don't
Yeah.
have the big machine,
Yeah.
quote unquote.
And I think
Demand.
that's in my opinion, that's kind of an artifact of the productization of music.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're so, what's the word? Like, we've been influenced so much by the productization of music, which is, how it's been for 50, 60 years before,
Right.
The modern age, I guess. And like, all of that was kind of presented, and it's kind of like in our, psyche as like, that's the way it is. You make an album and you package it this way, and you get on the radio and you call it this thing, and there's a genre here, and if you like this genre, that's the kind of music you like, and
I know,
all of
yeah.
that stuff is just to help it sell better.
Exactly.
It's just a more
The history
convenient
of it is
product.
so interesting. to
Yeah,
me.
so it's
Yeah.
like once again another cool thing is like that wasn't necessary to the music. That was just kind of an artifact of convenience of the context of the distribution and the marketing and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I mean it's music, even just the recording of it is, music happens all the time, and there is that kind of free form of it. I always think of it, it's like, every musician I'm sure have these like really beautiful moments where things just happen spontaneously doing music, and especially with other people, it's awesome. But like, I feel like that's the spark, and then, in the past, someone would come up to you and be like, "All right, now we need you to repeat that and like do it on command," and and it's like
this is your thing now,
right? And it's like that's not really how it works.
Yeah.
And so I do think in the kind of more modern context, you are getting closer to maybe what like the more natural version of music might be.
Yeah, I love this optimistic take on it.
Yeah.
You are helping restore my faith in
Oh,
humanity.
great. Yeah. Well, I always think like, we might be getting to some sort of future where, like, once again, all of our assumptions about work and money and economy
for sure.
are completely turned over on themselves just from technology and AI. We might have to completely reorder society and how we, who knows how it's going to happen. But I always think like there's this idea of, well, what are people going to do with all their free time if they have so much, if we can provide all these things for them, and people will need like musicians have been doing this already. Like that's what we know how to do with our free time.
That's true.
And we sure know how to, pursue things without a financial things that aren't exactly
it's finally
smart
time for the
decisions.
musicians to inherit the earth.
Yeah, we've been practicing.
Well, tell me a little bit just about the origin of the Milestones, because I know y'all are kind of from different regions and areas. And how did you come together as a band?
Kind of. I mean, we all kind of started in Maryland. I know you introed us as like Virginia based, which we are now. But I was in school and like I was on a certain path of academic, professional kind of thing, and I just decided at one point that I was like, this is not for me, and I kind of really committed to at least pursuing and trying music. Like just going down that path at least. I found I was in this band called Hot Hymns. They were in DC, and that was like kind of my first band. I played guitar for them. And then I had a bunch of songs that I had written, and, I was kind of, experimenting with my voice and singing, and it didn't quite fit for the band I was in, who was more like indie pop, kind of dream pop kind of stuff, which is great. I mean, they're a really cool band. And so I wanted to start something kind of more local and, my thing, I guess. And so... as you do, I was just scouring Craigslist.
Oh, really?
For months, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I love Craigslist. Probably kids these days won't really know, but I've gotten all my best things. I think I've found on Craigslist, including my old drummer Tad there.
Oh, really?
We met on Craigslist.
That's
we were a
funny.
Craigslist connection. It was great. I had been through plenty of, other ads and, stuff like that. But I found my apartment through Craigslist, a car, my amp, a guitar, a whole bunch of good stuff I found on Craigslist. But so I think, did you have the ad or did I have the ad?
I forget.
I think you were advertising yourself as a drummer.
Yeah.
And I hit him up and... sent him some of my recordings that I had done, and I guess he was down, and and then he came to my house, and we did a little jam session, and I think we just kind of instantly had like a little connection.
It's a modern love story.
Yeah, no, it was not. I mean, look at us now.
I know.
Some of Mama's cooking.
Yeah, some of Mama Wandres cooking. And then so that I'd always been looking for like kind of a drummer, as like. I'm a very drummer-oriented guitarist, I feel like.
Interesting.
I don't feel comfortable a lot of times just doing guitar stuff. I feel like I connect well with drummers, and I need that kind of rhythmic thing.
Interesting.
It's funny, I was actually listening to one of the Undertone songs that we did with Tony. Tad's also a drummer on there. I think it's The Light. And I have a guitar solo section in it, but it's like the guitar solo is so in tandem with the drums that it's like, listening back, it was just like, where does the guitar start and the drums kind of end?
I feel like that is definitely kind of your guitar style. Is like it's more, it's kind of like very cohesive and like big, and
Yeah.
it's like a whole canvas.
I
as
don't like
opposed to-
piercing with like melody. Like here's a cool
Yeah.
melody line, you know.
That's how I play guitar.
Yeah, well, yeah. No, you're a great
No,
guitarist
no, I
yourself.
didn't take it like that. But it's funny. It's totally two different, approaches. Like I feel like you're a very like it's a whole thing. You
Yeah.
know, it's really cool.
I do a lot of like right hand movement, like kind
Yeah,
of thrashing. That's always because it's like it's like where are you interfacing with the music? You know, it's
Right,
like
totally.
where I interface with it is not necessarily like here's a sweet melodic line. It's more
Yeah.
like here's an emotion or like here's like an energy. And that just ends up being very rhythmic.
It's like a sonic soundscape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when I used to teach guitar. My first job was teaching guitar, and
Mine too.
oh, nice! I didn't know that. That's cool. But I remember I had a first student that I like. I guess he really liked me or something. I did him like some camp, and then he was like asked for me as an instructor as my first student. And at one point he was like, "How do you do that?" Like he was like, "Teach me how do you do that?" And he was referring to just my like kind of like wild right hand.
Yeah.
Which was like I was like, "Oh, you kind of just like do it." I don't know.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I mean, I'm not saying I did anything crazy, but it's more of a
know what
less
you mean.
less caring. It's a less precise way
It's a feel.
of playing guitar,
Yeah,
right?
for
So you're not
sure.
as like surgical.
I get that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it obviously involves a lot of like, kind of muting the strings and kind of all that kind of stuff. So you're avoiding noise and kind of just getting that rhythmic dampening.
Was that is that like an intentional artistic choice that you make, or is that just kind of naturally how you play guitar?
No, I mean, like I said, I just always liked drummers, I guess.
Yeah.
And I've always felt like I needed a drummer to play with, and I think that, yeah, it just feels empty. I know a lot of people can do like I was saying, let the melody or things like that speak for themselves, but I've always needed that kind of energy and rhythm. But yeah, I guess so back to the Milestones, I guess. Like so me and Tad, I guess, joined on that, and then brought in my friend CJ Metz, who was playing guitar. Tad brought in Ian Larkin on bass, and that was kind of like the first formation of the Milestones. And we had like a handful of songs that we were doing. We recorded pretty quickly with Jordan Miller, who ran a studio. He's friends with Kenny Eaton.
Oh yeah.
And then he recorded our first EP, which was like pretty early on. I mean, that was like months into like being a unit. And then maybe not even a year after that, we recorded with Kenny Eaton at Mystery Ton Studios an EP, Honey. And that was like a year into it. And then from there, I think we kind of wrote on that for a while as best we could. We kind of shifted, lineups a little bit. I know Tad had other things to do. So he left, him and Ian left the band. But great contributions to the band, the music for sure. We always kind of appreciated both of them. And then kind of me and CJ kind of took more of the helm. Steered it more into like a Baltimore band. We had moved to Baltimore and picked up a drummer friend, John Love, from high school, and went through a few bassists. They're all great players. And then now we kind of pivoted to Virginia.
Nice.
So it's been through, some iterations.
Yeah.
And, we've kind of grown as people and, kind of approach it a little bit differently now, I think. A little more disciplined, a little more like kind of intentional. But it's great. I mean, music is an awesome thing to do. And it's just fun to kind of, have had that journey with, one thing I like about doing music too, is like an adult, is like, I think you just meet awesome people
For
doing
sure.
music. It's just
Yeah.
such a great way
So true.
to like interact with other humans.
I agree. Yeah.
Um,
It's a good way to build community.
yeah, and just like, I mean, at this point, most of the people I know are musicians in some way or another, so it's just fun.
Yeah. I have the same problem.
Yeah. Those flaky bastards.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, how do you approach songwriting for the Milestones? Do you write all the songs? Is it a collaborative effort?
No, yeah, it's definitely kind of I think once again, doing music nowadays, it's so hard to do it where it's like one person's thing. You know, it's
Yeah, for
really
sure.
like you, just for the longevity, you need everyone to kind of feel a part of it. You know,
Definitely,
and once
yeah.
again, I think this gets closer to really how music happens. You know, there is. There is a melding and a smearing together that kind of happens when you have multiple people. So, I mean, it's all a collaboration. It definitely started as like I had some songs written myself that I kind of brought to the band. And then they kind of became other things, like I said, it kind of speared together. And then our kind of just take on it evolved. CJ kind of became more of involved in the process and, writing his own songs. And, at this point where I guess we're like a team, like a co-collaborator team of some sense. But I mean, me and him have been just the only consistent, I guess, members the whole time. So it's like at some point, we just had to kind of keep ourselves as a just a unit for like just the keeping together the band, just to
Right,
like
yeah.
keep the the shows, just do all the ministerial things. So as we've shifted lineups, we like it's like that's the kind of core, and then when we bring people on, there's some level of relearning the songs or whatever that everyone kind of does. But yeah, I mean, I think the goal is to just have some sort of a real spontaneous collaboration. I mean, that's always
Yeah.
kind of what we've been gearing towards. And my thing too is like what happens when you're not intending it to happen is always the most fun.
So true. Yeah.
Like I have plenty of songs that like I write myself that like don't translate to like a live setting, or they don't have the same impact.
Right.
And it's you just never really want to be like telling someone exactly what to do. You want to like let them
Definitely.
kind of do something.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's the goal, is to have everyone just kind of spontaneously create in the moment something awesome.
Yeah.
It's hard to do, but yeah, that's definitely the goal, I think.
Yeah. And so what's it been like now that you're playing lead for Undertone, which definitely go check out those Ceiling Glade Cabin sessions.
Yeah, check it out.
What's it like switching from being kind of a front man to being a lead player and not writing the song, not, mostly, it's Tony's songs, and
Yeah,
you're
for sure.
coming in and kind of being on the other end of it.
Absolutely. So yeah, kind of on the other end of just what I was saying, like I think the spontaneous creation is like that's the goal, but it's just so hard. You just have to
Right.
get everyone in the room together. You have to like, have the time and the space. So yeah, sometimes it's just great just to be like, hey, you got a song, it's all written. You just need like me to accent it. Perfect.
Yeah, I know. I love that.
Like, yeah. So that's definitely what I'm doing with Tony's stuff. Like it's his songs, and they're great songs. Tony's got so
Yeah,
many good songs.
for sure.
And it's such a relief. It's such a nicer experience, I think. I wouldn't say
Yeah.
like I'm the front man in the Milestones, but it's like there is more of like I'm responsible for creating, my parts and like, the song structures and lyrics and, all these kinds of things. And like, so it's so much nicer sometimes just to be, just a guitar,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
I that's always, I think, I'm more of a guitarist definitely than I am a singer.
Yeah.
And so it's nicer to apply that to someone else's thing as just an accent, as a support kind of supplement.
Yeah.
And also just like the way I play guitar, I think is kind of a songwriting kind of way. Like when the parts I contribute, I think I always have the song kind of in mind.
Definitely. Yeah.
And so it's just nice, it's just a little more tasteful, lighter. I can kind of step back. But I'm still kind of contributing into kind of like tightening up and kind of, chipping away at this statue,
Yeah, absolutely. I
as the
love
song
that
gets kind of
analogy.
created.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely been cool. But I like, because I do this in Undertone, then I also have another project that I'm getting involved with called Nan Anna. She's this great
Yeah.
singer-songwriter, ukuleleist. And same thing. I mean, it's just I'm just playing guitar. I'm just kind of contributing, atmosphere and vibe. And it was funny when we did those cabin recordings back to Undertone. Now I was like thinking to myself, like, have I been playing guitar for over 20 years just to get to the point where like I can just strum a chord at the right time?
I know, it's so funny. It's just like what I feel like what always sounds best to me is like the simplest thing.
Yeah. Totally. And I mean, it takes, but what happens, I think, is like it's like, I mean, I'm not saying I'm like a master guitarist, but like you approach the simple things with like a more of a skilled eye.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And there's such subtleties that happen that just go such a long way to,
I know, it's so
like
true.
the overall impact of something.
Yeah, really fill it out.
Yeah, I mean, just the right note, here or there, with the right accent, with the right little thing you do,
Yeah.
like I know there's a part in a Non Anna song where it's like I do like a flourish one time, but I don't do it another time, and it's like
Yeah,
I know younger me would have been like, well, that's the part, so like that's what you do each time,
Right,
So to
yeah.
have that kind of looseness, I think, is something you learn with time.
Yeah, it's so true.
But yeah, it's not necessarily about improving your technical ability. It's
Right.
about kind of refining your taste, your, control, I guess. Your,
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So y'all, the Milestones just played South by Southwest, right?
Yeah, I mean, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't as big a deal as kind of I think maybe it sounded or looked. I mean, we thought it could have been a big deal.
I mean, it sounds like a big deal.
It was one of those things where like there's so many dimensions of South by Southwest. I think
sure,
like there's
yeah.
so many different.
But just to be
types of experience.
associated with it, I
Yeah.
mean, don't downplay yourself.
Well, I mean, sure. I mean, it was cool to kind of like fly down and have a purpose and be playing.
Totally,
and,
yeah.
that was totally cool. But it was one of those things where like we weren't sure how it would be, but there was no way we wouldn't do it.
Of course, yeah.
Like
you
we
don't say
definitely
no to that.
Right, we definitely
Yeah.
had to make it happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it was still a great time. Like even our shows were they were pretty good still. We played for some new people and kind of just got down there in Austin. But yeah, I mean, a big thing for me. I mean, I kind of like made like a trip out of it, so I was there for like a whole week almost, and I just saw so much good music.
Oh, I'm
like
sure.
it was great.
Yeah.
It was all bands that I didn't know pretty much.
Wow.
And it was like every day I would just like kind of get up, like I'd rented a bike, so I would just kind of like bike around to the venues, like see who was playing, and like, yeah, just kind of complete, going completely blind to these shows, and just
That's
every
so
time
cool.
almost being like, this band's awesome.
Yeah.
Like it was great.
Any standout acts?
There were a lot. I mean, it was because it's once again, South by Southwest is like a curated thing. I mean,
Right.
once again, there's the official showcases and the unofficial. I don't think I went to any official. I don't even know. I mean, once again, the line is so blurred between what's official and unofficial that I guess you don't know. But a lot of it was like tastemaker, bands or whatever, I guess. But there's so many. I mean, there's this one band called Frankie and the Witch Fingers. They were awesome, and it was like cool, like techno metal, like riff rock, I guess. But they played 14 shows in the span of I think a week.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and they were just killing it. Like their live, like I've listened to their music out since then, and like the recording music's a little different. It's not as like, I guess I don't know, but their live performances were just incredible.
Yeah.
And there was a few other bands like that. But it was cool because like while I was down there, like you would see one band and you'd kind of see them again on a different bill, and then so you'd go there, and then once you were there, you'd find two other bands that you like a lot, and then you'd see them on another bill. So you were always kind of like, going to what was kind of familiar, and then being exposed to new stuff each time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was it was cool. It was a fun experience. But yeah, I did see. I saw Nikki Lane there,
Yeah, I
who I
remember telling
sent
me
to
that.
you.
She's good.
She was amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know her at all. Like I kind of went into that blind, and she really was pretty incredible. It's just like a classic kind of show woman, just put
Yeah,
on a
totally.
great show. Like I think her drummer, there was like a tornado in the Midwest or something, so her drummer couldn't make it out, and so it was just her and this guitar player, and she just had such like a personable, banter and telling all these funny stories. And I think she smoked like 3 joints while she's up there and took like, shots of tequila. So it was great. I did see, it was weird, it was funny. So once again, I saw so much good local music, not local, but like, I mean, some local, but kind of just like more unofficial, I guess, like, just like kind of shows that were thrown together. And I was outside Stubbs Barbecue, which is like a famous venue.
Oh,
And there was
yeah.
like a line. So I was like, oh, like what's, who's playing? And someone was like, oh, it's like, Band of Horses and Jack's Mannequin are playing, here. And I was like, oh, well, like, they're pretty cool. Like, I'm not huge fans, but I was like, I like them enough. And so I waited in line, and it ended up being like an hour line to get in to Stubbs Barbecue. And it was a free show, which was
Wow.
awesome. But like, I just, that was like the most official event I went to.
Yeah.
And it was like the worst one. Like it was like, there were like other bands that opened before, and I mean, they weren't bad, but it was just like, I had just come from seeing so much awesome,
Right.
kind of, I don't want to say like, I'm having trouble like getting the word for this, like less popular, like more
Right.
underground, I guess, or
Right.
indie,
Yeah.
that were just bands that were just incredible and just like blew me away. And then seeing like, a showcase where it was like this management company was presenting all these bands,
Right,
and
yeah.
it just seemed all very, tight and
I
just
get
like,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. Less authentic.
Yeah, a little less
Yeah.
authentic and just like more of a show, a production.
Right.
And once again, I mean, Jack's Mannequin, they're great for the most part, I guess. I really like Something Corporate growing up. But it was just one of those things where like I was just seeing them perform, and like they were getting so much of a response from the crowd, and it was just like I was like, this is the power of marketing and the internet, or like the radio
coming
at
full
this
circle.
point. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Like that's what I was witnessing was just the coincidence of this band played on the radio for a lot of people
Right.
during the time where the radio was a big thing.
Yeah, and nostalgia.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there was those times where like he played a song, and it just started, and as soon as you play the first few notes, like the crowd goes crazy, but it's like it's not that great of a song.
Yeah, it's a different experience, I think.
To hear a song, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Because it's kind of nice. I like going to shows blind.
I do
sure.
too. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was just some bands I was seeing that like, you just see a show at a certain time with the lights just, it's like, it's just the right
Right.
experience where you're seeing this band. And to them, it might just feel like a normal show. They might themselves feel like a normal band, but it's like
Right.
you just see them at the right moment.
I totally
And
get
it's
that,
just like,
yeah.
you're just like, how are these people so cool?
Yeah.
like, or are these like demigods coming down from,
Dude, I
Mount Olympus?
totally know. I just recently saw Sturgill Simpson
Nice,
at the
yeah.
Anthem.
Hell yeah.
And I was
Did
like,
they play for like 3 hours?
dude, they played for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
And at one point, I was just like, are they doing like black magic?
Right,
Like,
yeah,
is
like-
this like literal
Yeah.
witchcraft
Right,
that I'm
yeah.
witnessing? Like, it's just sometimes magic just strikes and you get to witness it. And I feel like music is so like you keep saying, in the moment. So just something that's created on the spot and special when it's special, and when it hits, it hits.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always hit.
Yeah,
But
and it doesn't hit when you try to make
when
it
you
hit,
really want
and-
it to hit, it's not going to hit.
Right. Yeah. So you just have to let it happen.
It's true.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I heard that's. I feel like I hear a lot of like, oh, like Paul McCartney plays for 3 hours. It's like I always feel like that's insane, but I feel like Sturgill Simpson. I feel like playing for 3 hours. I don't know. That just seems more of like he was just kicking ass the whole time.
Dude, yeah, and I mean, kind of what you're saying too about like authenticity and production and marketing. Like, there's no, like, no backdrop, just like some lights and smoke machines
Yeah,
and
that's all you
4
need.
guys on stage for
Yeah.
3.5 hours, and it was that and Buddy Guy, I think, the best
Oh, nice, cool.
I've ever seen. Who's definitely a showman, but it's
Yeah.
kind of different.
Yeah.
What about you? I see
For
you
what?
thinking over there.
I was trying to
live
remember.
performance?
I had seen Buddy Guy play with someone else recently. Not
Oh, really?
not personally me saw him, but it was like online or something. I can't remember who it was. It was a cool combo, but I'm not gonna remember
He's
it.
great, man.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, one of my
That's
faves.
always what I mean. I always think it's like, so like music is a thing that I think you have to kind of be stubborn about too. Like just kind of do it, enjoy it, explore it yourself. And like at some point you just stop caring about the effect, like, is it working? Like,
Right.
am I going to make it? You just,
Yeah, I totally
you
know
just
what you
can't
mean. Yeah.
have that be in your,
It's so
decision.
true. Yeah.
And so I just feel like these, like, I mean, I guess Buddy Guy maybe was successful younger, but like, I think what R.L. Burnside,
Yeah.
these incredible musicians that, it seems like, you like they're like 60 years old or something.
I know,
And then like
right?
finally someone's like, "Oh, you're great." Like
It's so true.
And it's got to be incredible like what kind of an experience that is as like a human being, just like
Yeah.
stubbornly doing this thing that you love for all your life, and then finally someone's like, "Oh, hey, you're pretty good."
I know, right? I always, it gives me inspiration a little bit as a musician. Like I
Yeah,
always
you
think
never know.
Lucinda Williams was like that. She's one of my favorites. J.J. Cale,
Nice.
another
yeah.
one of my favorites. And I don't know. Sometimes it's like it makes sense. You get older, you start writing better songs.
Yeah. I know, like Dan Auerbach has a big thing where he, with his label Easy Eye Sound, where he discovers, not, I don't want to say discovers, but like he gives a platform to a lot of these kind of like lesser known but really talented, musicians that
Yeah.
that might not be out,
stuff.
in the scope of like, oh, the kids are gonna love this one,
No,
but,
totally. Yeah.
but yeah, I think you were talking about like what a good show I've seen. Or
Oh,
like
yeah.
I did see Sierra Farrell at Delfest
She's so amazing.
a few years
She's
ago.
so
I think
good.
she's playing this year again too.
Yeah.
But like that was one thing I was just like, it's almost like you can't imagine like them doing that 30 more times over the summer,
Yeah.
It's like it's such a special thing. You're just
I
like
totally know what
like
you
there's
mean.
so much juice there. It's
Absolutely.
like it's pretty wild.
Yeah, they just strike gold
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, but it's pretty awesome.
Cool. Well, just to close us out, you want to tell us maybe
About my stuff. I have a djembe.
about your stuff? Oh,
Yeah,
yes. Tell
brought
us
a
about your
djembe.
stuff.
No, and Tad's just I'm always calling Tad up and telling him about some new stuff I got.
Yeah. You always have stuff.
Stuff.
You really
We love the stuff. Yeah, one day I'll have cool stuff.
You do have cool stuff.
But yeah.
No, you're fine.
What was your
Class
question?
clown over here.
Yeah, this guy.
Derailing my serious interview. I was just gonna ask if you could tell people next gigs, where they can find your music.
Yeah,
all that good stuff.
So the Milestones, we have I guess I don't know when this is gonna like air. But yeah, so we're kind of still very Virginia based. We're playing a show in Stanton in a few weeks. Non Anna is playing in the streets this year, which is cool.
So cool.
Although that's not happening for a while, I don't think. And then Tony, you can probably catch him. You can probably catch him this Friday or something.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, no, he does his own thing too, with or without us. Yeah, I don't know, not a good promo, but
Terrible promo.
Yeah, I know. I don't have too
Awful.
much going on at the moment.
No, I mean, it sounds like you do.
I guess the Milestones have a new song coming out pretty soon.
There you go. That's a good thing.
They were finishing it up. It's called What I Want. It should be out in a few weeks.
Cool.
So that's our first new song we've had in a while. Should
Nice.
be a good one.
There you go.
Yeah.
You promoted something.
I realized, yeah. I
Good
figured it out.
job.
All right.
Cool. Well, anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, thank
Yeah?
you guys. I think you guys are doing a great job. I
Thanks,
think you've
man.
got a really good like interview vibe to yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
you've got
I
a-
listen
got a
to
future in this business.
a lot of Terry Gross Fresh Air on NPR.
I don't know who that
and
is.
that's my I think that's my where I get it from.
You're going there.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You were a great interview. I had fun.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
a good interviewer as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, And thank you for listening, everybody.
Thanks, Rocksteady.
Yeah. All right. We'll see y'all soon, hopefully.
All right, don't
Have a
forget to
good
check out
one.
Craigslist.
Stay classy.
You never know what you'll find.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.